Hi. I wanted to share about another time that I spent 2 weeks in isolation. And it's a little bit sensitive, raw. I don't have the same connection to that experience that I used to. And I feel a sense of detachment about it and positivity. So keeping that in mind. In 2014, I was suffering pretty badly from PTSD and living alone in a little bachelor and on EI. So very able to stay home and not leave the house. And I came upon some experiences that were very triggering for me. And I think on some level, I really wanted that to happen. And I think on that same level, I was seeking healing and I wanted to handle my business. So as these triggers came up, I dove into them rather than avoiding them, which would be normal, and went down the rabbit hole. And for about 2 weeks, I had kind of a spiraling flashback loop that was very physical. So I had a first recollection of sense memories, and that was very painful, and I suffered greatly, even probably more so than at the time of the event that I was recalling. And that's because oftentimes we dissociate to manage extreme stress. And, ever since that moment, that was a thing that I brought into my life, even on a daily level. And that maladaptation, and bless my mind and my body for doing that for me at the time and helping me through that and to survive. But in my regular life, it robbed me of a lot of connection with other people and joy, and kept me very burdened. So as these sense memories returned for the first time since the event, and I guess, it had been 14 years at that point since the event occurred, maybe 13. As those memories returned, everything began to change, and I developed like a fever, and I knew I couldn't talk to anyone because I couldn't connect with reality. I was like trapped in this torture, reliving this really terrible event. And I was, crying, so worked up for all that time that, in between crying and basic bodily needs, I couldn't do much of anything. I think I sent a couple of really crazed texts to a couple of really gracious friends and some advisors now and then, but I wasn't making much sense. I couldn't communicate because I was all wrapped up in my own stuff. So, flash forward, as I'm going through all this, and even before, I'm reading The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, which is a great review of a lot of research up until that time. I think it was published in 2014 or 13. And I learned so much. And as I'm going through all of this, I'm reading along, and it's really validating a lot of what I'm happening. So Bessel became my guru for that time. Anyway, at a certain point, I developed a fever. I used herbs to sedate myself, whatever I had around, and whatever friends had kind of left at my house. Thank goodness for friends. And then at some point, something really disturbing happened. I started to shake really violently and thought I was having a seizure. So it's kind of like, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. What's going on? They're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to lock me up. This is not going to work out. So I, went to nowhere, kept going, trusted And then all of a sudden, when it stopped, it probably went on for maybe an hour, felt like an hour. I had no sense of time. And I was alone. When it stopped, this beautiful pink light shone in through the window, and peace came upon me. And I felt this sense of like connection, sort of like sometimes when you're in nature and the wind's blowing and the sun's shining on you, and you just feel connected. And everything changed. I don't think at that time I didn't realize how pivotal a moment it was. But now that I look back, it was a real turning point. And so I submit this to you for inspiration right now. If you're having a hard time, maybe there's a lesson, maybe there's a gift in that. And maybe you're the gift. Maybe you can find a way to be with yourself more, to integrate and connect. And that was really the result of all of that. And that was the healing, was coming back to myself, rejoining parts that I kind of split up and compartmentalized in order to deal with difficult things. And it worked so good, but it didn't work good in times of peace and to help me stay connected to people I loved. And, it really rotted a lot of my relationships, except for ones with, intoxicants and escape. And to be able to start that journey after that point of sort of practicing, when I'm triggered and I disassociate, catching that, recognizing those symptoms when they're happening, which is like a huge magic trick in itself. But you can do that. I've done that. You can do that. When it comes up, you can be present in your awareness about it and address it and draw yourself back to come back together rather than choosing that way, that direction. And really, this is the truth of the universe, that we're all connected. So being in that truth is essentially healing and loving, and it's the best medicine that, when you're in peaceful times. And this is obviously only intended, to be speaking to that, because if someone's in a place where they're in danger, this should never be expected of them. You got to do what you got to do, and you got to, survive things. No judgment there. And everybody's path is different. But yeah, that was the glorious moment of a grand transformation that I really wanted and received. And at this time, I truly believe that what's happening is so that many of us can find a way to do that same thing. And if you have any questions at any time, or you need help and stuff like that's going on, please don't hesitate to message me. We can talk. I've got lots of time too. Pandemic thoughts.